What if we named things for what they're not? We'd give teachers non-oranges and fly non-cars. That sounds ridiculous, right? So why is your world-changing organization called a non-profit? The truth is, you are for purpose. And the more you raise, recruit, and retain, the more good you can do. That's where Bloomerang comes in. Bloomerang's giving platform is built for purpose with easy-to-use tools and powerful insights that will help you understand your donors better than ever and unleash even more generosity. Imagine spending less time on admin tasks and more time on what matters, your mission. Bloomerang customers raise an average of 26% more. Are you ready to join them? Then just visit jcsocialmarketing.com/Bloomerang to learn more and start making an even bigger impact. That's jcsocialmarketing.com/BLOOMERANG. Let's get to the episode. Hello, and welcome to Nonprofit Nation. I'm your host, Julia Campbell, and I'm going to sit down with nonprofit industry experts, fundraisers, marketers, and everyone in between to get real and discuss what it takes to build that movement that you've been dreaming of. I created the Nonprofit Nation podcast to share practical wisdom and strategies to help you confidently find your voice, definitively grow your audience, and effectively build your movement. If you're a nonprofit newbie or an experienced professional who's looking to get more visibility, reach more people, and create even more impact, then you're in the right place. Let's get started. Hello. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Nonprofit Nation. I'm your host, Julia Campbell. Today, I'm joined by the amazing Ken Miller, CFRE. Ken is a powerhouse in the nonprofit world and a true advocate for professional growth. Ken is the president of Denali FSP Fundraising and Grant Consultants, a fundraising consultancy he founded in 2014 after a long and successful career in development. And I actually founded my business in 2015. So that's amazing. After a long and successful career in development as well. He's also deeply involved in leadership roles with the Association of Fundraising Professionals, AFP, and other organizations working to advance equity and excellence in philosophy. Ken, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you, Julia. I'm so appreciative to be here.
I am thrilled to be here. This is not a topic I think I've talked about on the podcast before. So can you share a bit about your journey into the nonprofit world and specifically what inspired you to focus on mentoring and coaching for fundraising professionals?
Yeah, great question. So what began? The story begins with 1984. I graduated from Dartmouth College. I go into the corporate world. So I'm in corporate sales for Kodak and 3M. Then, unfortunately, I had a substance misuse problem. And because of that problem, I ended up being homeless for 20 years on the streets, 4 different cities. I also went to prison 3 times. I'm a 3-time convicted felon, spent years behind bars. When I got out the last time in 2007, and I've been clean and sober since 2004, I had no skills, none whatsoever. And so I began working in a warehouse. And then quickly I moved up to Alaska, back to Alaska where I grew up, and ran into an old mentor named Jim Posey. And Jim said, hey, there's a job down at Beans Cafe, which is a soup kitchen. And I thought he said executive director. And I didn't know what an executive director was, but I'm sure I could do it. Mm-hmm. So I went down there and I talked to the executive director and I said, here, I'm here to interview for the executive director position. And I'll never forget, he looked at me and he said, well, I'm the executive director. And as far as I know, there's no position open. But I do have a position as a development director. And I'm like, sure, I can build something. What do I need to build? Because I didn't know what a development director was. And he said, it's fundraising. And I said, I can do that. I've been in sales my whole life, legal and illegal, but I've been in sales. And so I began in the field of fundraising, fell in love with it, fell in love with AFP, Association of Fundraising Professionals. And I always remember the individual that had led me to Beans Cafe, a gentleman who is and was my mentor to this day. And that was 2010. So he's been my mentor at least for 15 years.
That's amazing. I'm so impressed. I'm really honored that you shared your story like that. You shared your backstory and are so honest about your backstory. I think a lot of us, are really hesitant to share the sort of trials and tribulations, things that we have gone through. But I think a common thread that runs through a lot of the journeys with many of my guests is that we kind of fell into fundraising. We did not go to school and say, oh, we're going to be a fundraiser when we grow up. We're going to ask people for money and we're going to, grow an organization. And the skills are transferable, certainly from sales and storytelling, I imagine, is one of your superpowers, like being able to share your story or get other people to share their story in honesty and authenticity. So that's incredible. 15 years mentorship. That's wonderful. And you're still in touch with Jim?
Oh, yes.
Amazing.
So, and I want to make sure the, not readers, but the people and listening understand this. I'm a Black man. I'm a man of color. My mentor is a Black man. And I identified early that there was a break or a split from individuals being mentored or being supported by older Black men to lead them, hopefully, to doing well. And so even at this time, I have a group called Pass It On, and we have 4 generations of Black men supporting Black men and mentoring Black men. And so I have one level above me, and then I have 2 levels below me. When I say levels, 2 groups of individuals or cohorts or age groups that are mentoring the level below them. And we mentor.
So there are 3 distinct areas of your work that you focus on: mentoring, coaching, and workplace sponsorship. Now, I would love if you would maybe explain each of these 3 areas. What do they mean? Sort of how do they differ?
Okay, let's start with workplace sponsorship, because that's the one most people do not understand and or know about. Workplace sponsorship is when someone in an executive position or C-suite level has identified other individuals within the organization to support, lead, prod, make available resources.
So this is more internal.
Yes, definitely. That's why it's called workplace sponsorship. So you're being sponsored by someone. Familiar with it. Again, I teach this from the stage, and it's a whole different area of how do we find a workplace sponsor? How do we work with a workplace sponsor? But that's workplace sponsor, internal to the organization, someone from an upper level sponsoring someone from the quote unquote junior levels. Next is coaching. Coaching is an agreement and or a contract between 2 individuals for pay. Really, to be a true coach, you're doing this for pay. That is either paid by an external party, which could be your boss, could be your company, could be an individual that wants to help you or support you. But it's usually for tactical reasons where the coach does most of this talking. Okay. And then mentorship, and this is real important that I make this differentiate this from coaching, is free. Mentorship is always free. It's at no cost. And that is an individual that is willing to lead you, support you, give you information. A lot of the things that I do for coaching, and I'm a paid coach, I'll do for a mentor, but it's always for free. Okay. Another thing, one other quick one. Coaching is always time limited, time limited, because you're under a contract. 3 months, 6 months, a year. You get extended, but usually coaching is a short term. All of my mentorship is open-ended. I've been mentoring some of the same men for 14 years, and we meet regularly every quarter, and then they can always contact me in between.
I love that. I really see those 3 distinct types of sort of professional development and how I've used them in my career. I think mentorship, you're right, it's open-ended. Maybe you talk to someone every day for 6 months and then you don't speak to them for 3 years. But coaching seems to me you really have a goal at the end of the day, like a problem you want to solve or a skill that you want to acquire. And like you said, it's definitely a paid contract with a certified coach. And then workplace sponsorship is more internal and something that, it's something that is happening inside your job and a person that is maybe a position that you want, or maybe it's, someone in the organization that you really admire. So I think explaining the difference between the three is really important. How do we know which one we need? And what if we need all three? How do we go about this?
If we need all three, then we need to seek all three.
Okay.
The most important to me, 100%, is mentorship.
Okay.
Because I can get coaching with mentorship. I coach a lot of my guys. Okay. I will give them tactical information. I'll give them support. I will give them contacts, to speak with. In mentorship, a lot of people, what they misunderstand about mentorship is real. And what I mean by real,
Yes.
There is a corpus of information on how to mentor best practices. And one of the biggest problems, and I was listening to you, what you were saying, I haven't talked to my mentor in like 3 years. That wouldn't be really a mentorship to me. Not saying that you're wrong. I've never wanted to say that. What I'm saying is mentorship, and when I speak from the stage on this or when I'm teaching a workshop, it's an explicit contract. It can be verbal, and it is verbal, but it's an explicit contract. And the contract has two parties. One is the mentee, one is the mentor. But in that contract that I'm explicitly, I'll say, I will meet with you on these times. This is how I will communicate with you. And this is what we're going to work on. When I mentor, Julie, this is so important I say this. Every person I've mentored, I've mentored probably 40 to 50 men across the country. I had one point in July, I had 28 men that I had an explicit contract with to mentor. Okay, I'm down to 8 for a very specific reason, but that's fine. But the first thing I say to every Black man or man of color, because I have some that are Puerto Rican and I have other men of color, is one thing. What is your dream? Because that is what I am going to, that's my side of the contract, is to do everything within my power and capabilities to support and engender your dream. And I also say this, I give you permission to dream. And then I shut up. It's powerful. It's powerful. Because in my community, or any community, I hate to make it just my community. In many communities, we've taken away the power or the ability to dream. Oh, you can't do that. Why do you think you can do that? Oh, your big sister didn't do it, so you can't do it. Or we can't support you in that. Siblings, parents, peers. But I tell them, I give you permission to dream.
Why do you think that in the fundraising field particularly, that mentorship is particularly important? Like, what are some of the unique challenges faced that you've seen?
It's lonely. It's lonely.
It's lonely.
Fundraising is lonely. I don't care if you're annual. I don't care if you're data. I don't care if you're a major gift officer. I've been doing this for 15 years. I've taught all over the country. And I've met a lot of fundraisers, okay, and our development professionals. It's a lonely field, and many times you need support. You need someone to listen. You need empathy, not sympathy, but empathy. And many times you need direction, and I will give you direction. And I always couch it in, this is a suggestion I would make, Bob, Jim, Larry. This is my suggestion. So that's why it's super important. One, there's a corpus of knowledge. See, as a mentor, I'm more experienced than you. I am very good in fundraising, very good. I just say that, okay? I have this information. I have this experience. I've been there, done that. And if I haven't done it, I know who has. I have a lot of friends in this field.
Right, connection to resources.
So that's why. That's one of the main reasons why it's important in the fundraising field. And especially, again, for men of color, we're so few and far between. We sometimes feel like we're the only one when we go to conferences, or we're the only ones that are doing this many times within our organization.
I do agree that fundraising is lonely, it's isolating,
Mm-hmm.
and often what I have seen, because I get women, white women,
Mm-hmm.
usually younger women,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes moms that are attracted to me for mentorship just because they see that similar experience of having been a development director and then, sort of going off on their own to build a consultancy. And I think we are sort of attracted to people that have similar experiences and similar backgrounds. But I agree. I see mentorship as an ability to sort of pay it forward and pass on the knowledge that I have. And I love the idea of mentorship as a rising tide lifts all ships. Like, it's not a competition. Okay. There's a ton of money out there. Okay. Like, there's a lot of money out there. And just because fundraisers are helping each other, it doesn't mean, I think that sometimes executive directors or boards think that collaboration is not as desirable because they're like, no, we should just focus on what we're doing and our piece of the pie and our little corner of the universe. But I agree with you. I think that the more we can expand the pie and the more that we can share what we know and help people overcome obstacles and challenges and do their job better, I just see generosity begets generosity. That's sort of how I see it. I see that it really expands. I guess I just have that mindset, and as you do, I don't have that sort of that mindset where we have to be competitive with all other fundraisers. Like, I really wish we would be more collaborative together.
I agree. Yeah, I'm not from, I learned that first month I was on the job, because I don't believe in the finite pie theory.
Scarcity mindset. That's what I was trying to think.
Scarcity. The difficulty, I'll just say this real quick. The difficulty with boards many times is they come from the corporate world.
Right.
From the corporate world. And it is competitive. It's capitalism. So, but we're in the nonprofit world, and there's tremendous largesse out there from individuals and organizations to support what we do in our communities. And there's no reason that we need to compete. And anyone who knows me, and there's a lot of people that know me, know that that's never been my mindset.
So what advice would you give someone seeking a mentor? How can they identify the right person, and then how should they approach them?
I would look for someone who's open, gentle, and experienced. And then you approach them. You do what we do. We make the ask. You just make the ask. And what I mean by that, and I talk about this, usually I would say, hey, do you have some time that I could possibly give you a call, or we can have a cup of coffee if it's, local, and just sit down and say a little bit about yourself and ask them that I am looking for a mentor. And I've identified you as someone that I would love to tap in with you. I would love to just absorb some of your ease that I at least observe in how you carry yourself. Male, female, doesn't matter. And that's what I would do. But I'm always looking, and then the people I have in my life are open, they're gentle. God, that's a big word with me, gentleness today, kind, and then, have the experience.
Can you share sort of a memorable mentorship experience, either as a mentor or a mentee, something that really sort of shaped your career?
Sure. I have 100, but I'll just say one.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah. So early on in my career, I had a mentor named Bernie Washington. He was a CFO at Alaska Public Media. And I was working for Beans Cafe. He was a good friend with Jim Crockett, the executive director who hired me. Jim went on vacation. I was running while he was gone. He comes back. He said, I'm not feeling really well. And 2 days later, he was dead. I came in and was working his job, working for one of our programs as a program director. And I'm also the individual, of course, doing the fundraising. And it's December. I worked 13 days straight, 14, 15 hours. And I remember going to him, and I'm really sad because I loved Jim Crockett. He was a wonderful man and a good friend. And he's the executive director that gave me a shot with my past and background. Anyway, I went into Bernie, and Bernie was very good friends with Jim. And I was telling him, a little bit about how much I hurt. And I started crying. And he said this to me, I'll never forget. He said, Ken, you need to take some time off. You have brought to Beans Cafe a surplus of over $500,000. We would be happy with 150,000 surplus. Mm-hmm. But you're working yourself, and here you are, in my office with this amount. A lot has happened in the last 3 to 4 weeks. And I'll just never forget his compassion. Because most people make more, bring in more. And he's the board treasurer. Yeah. But he's like, no, we don't need more. We don't need more. We need for you to be well. So that's just one of many.
Exactly. Oh, wow. If someone's looking to be a mentor, how can they put themselves out there? How can they be sending the right signals? How can they just make themselves more available?
It's a good question. I've almost never looked at it from that side. I'm always having people ask, how do I? What I would do is be open, be gentle, and be experienced. And you will attract individuals, especially the gentleness and the openness. They'll see your experience. Okay, how you carry yourself, how you articulate, how you talk in the meetings or at the AFP luncheon. That part is easy. But being open also. And then the other thing, if you want to, I have asked gentlemen, do you want to be mentored? Because I saw something in them. I don't think I've ever been turned down. But do you see what I'm saying? But yes. I'd say 80%, 90% are individuals. This is interesting. Of the individuals that I mentor, most of them have come to me, asking to be mentored. Then I have a large percentage, it's their mothers or their sisters or their cousins or whatever. Say, hey, would you talk to my cousin? Would you talk to my son? Because he may be having this concern or difficulty. And I was, of course, you know me. Yeah, what's his number? And I always say, hey, I'm taking you out to eat. Let's go. Where do you want to meet? And then I pay, and I tell them a little more my story. And then, I ask them, what's your dream? Once I get past the dream, I'm like, hey, do you want to be mentored? This is what I will do for you. I will expose you to information, books, podcasts, webinars. Great. I will introduce you to people, and I will also educate you. I know business. I know a bit. I own 3 businesses. So I know business. I know fundraising. So a lot of my guys are fundraising, but a lot of them aren't fundraising. But they're all men, and they're all of color.
Is there a community that you've built where all of your mentors sort of talk to each other, or is this really sort of like an individual one-on-one relationship?
Great question. That's interesting. Yes. So I could say 3 communities. So first of all, I have the Pass It On group. That was, it still is, in Alaska. If you go to my Facebook page, Ken Miller, Facebook, you'll see Pass It On. You'll see me with all my mentees and one of my mentors. We used to meet every summer for lunch, even though I had 15 guys, and we'd get together once a year. Then I started a group called Men of Color in Development. I founded that. And in that group, we have 16 mentors and 43 mentees. And many of the mentors I've reached out to, hey, would you mentor? I know you. I've known you for years. You're great, da-da-da-da-da. And then I just started a new group, which is called Imperium in Imperial, Black Men's Book Study and Discussion Group. And those are all my mentors. Just started that last week. Those are all my mentees or past mentees. Some of them I don't mentor anymore. But they're all in that group, and we're doing the same thing. And our goal is to take that model and then have them do their own book study.
Wonderful. Are you attending the AFP conference in Seattle by any chance this year?
I'm teaching there. I teach every
Wonderful.
year.
This will definitely be out before. So AFP Icon is in Seattle this year. Well, I'm just thinking about the person listening to this that doesn't live in a city, that's just starting out in fundraising. Maybe they're connected with a couple of people on LinkedIn. I always think conferences or even local chapter meetings are a great way to meet people and to find mentors. Are there other places that you find, Ken, like LinkedIn or social media, or if you're just in a really maybe like rural place that doesn't have many
Right.
opportunities available locally?
Yeah. I've done LinkedIn. I've gone to different, Zoom meetings and observed people on there because I've moved into certain vertical markets. So I joined the speaking world, and it's a world.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
I
that's a
wasn't
whole
in,
different segment. I hear that.
so I'm in that world, and I was looking for a mentor of color, male, and I reached out to a few guys, and I have a mentor of color that's male. But again, since I know this, I sort of know how to reach out. But then again, there was one or two that said no, which is fine, or not now, or I don't mentor, which is cool. I respect that. I'm at age I can. But anyway, I would look again. What you're looking for in the field, if you want mentor/coaching, you want to stay in the field. But if you're you want to go outside the field, but you want what we call whole person mentoring, they don't have to be in your field. Okay. They're just a person that you can run things by, that they can still help you and support you on your journey of growth, both professionally and as a person.
I think what's so interesting about that is it's not about age. I think when sometimes people think about mentorship, they automatically assume they have to go to someone older than them. But it's not necessarily that. It's just someone that has experience in the field. So perhaps it's someone your same age that has just been speaking for 20 years. And it's a skill that you want to gain and you want to break into that field and you want to learn more. So I think that's a common misconception. Do you find that?
Yes. And I don't know what I'm going to say. I'm going to push back on that because it's not a pushback. My thing is this. If you're looking for coaching or tactical, sure, you can find a peer or someone your age. But if you're looking to deal with the vicissitudes of life, an individual with some years underneath their belt has been there, has done that. If you have a good mentor.
That's good.
And so there's a thing in the, we work a lot in the tribal world, and they're called elders. And they're so well respected for their experience of life. And so there's a gravity.
No, that's a really good point.
Yeah. So and again, yes, if you, especially starting out, and that person has 3 years and you have 0 or 1 month, reach out and ask them, hey, would you mentor me? And you can stay and grow that relationship. But I would think at some point you may want to look at someone with more, I use the word maturity, but I love the word discernment. That's probably more my favorite word. And when you become older, you can have the ability to be more discerning.
Yeah, we're not just reaching for all the shiny objects anymore. We're tired.
Yeah.
we know we've thrown spaghetti at the wall. We've seen what sticks, and we're not going to spin our wheels as much. Although I do tend to spin my wheels a little bit, but I like to think that I have some experience that I can pass on.
For sure.
And have made some decisions and definitely, taken some paths where I can guide others along the way and sort of steer them.
Mm-hmm.
So this is so interesting because when I started out as a director of development, I did feel incredibly isolated. I was very young. It was like 25 maybe when I was first director of development role. And I had moved from Massachusetts to Virginia, and I was in a completely different culture, a completely different town, a completely different everything. I didn't have my family. I didn't have my normal support systems around me. So for a fundraiser that is just kind of starting out, what is your sort of number one piece of advice? How should they navigate this crazy adventure?
So this is what I would say. Continuing education, professional development. 1, 2, get a mentor, period.
Yes.
Get a mentor. It's just asking people, and people are they're like honored that you would ask them. Okay. And they may not be the best mentor because a lot of people haven't been trained on how to be a mentor. I'll be honest with you. I deal with this. I teach this. And then the other thing is, if you are new in this field, learn AI, period. Yes. Learn AI, period.
Amazing. Can you elaborate on that? Like what what are the tools
Oh,
that you need?
100. I can speak on that in the next 5 hours. I have a company.
I think I could too.
Yeah, I own
I
a
agree with
company
you. Just
that
like
deals
learn
with.
about it. Don't be scared of it, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Embrace it. That's probably the best word, is to embrace it, because it will make you more effective. That's all we're trying to do. It'll make, because you're more efficient, you can be more effective. AI will never do a major donor in-person ask, period. Never.
Right.
Okay. But to be able to get to that, there's a lot of steps that need to be done in between. When you're doing your annual campaigns, there's a lot of steps that need to be done in between. One of the most difficult things for fundraisers is to get started. And AI is so great if you're working with the LLMs, the Chat GPT, the Perplexities, whatever, Copilot, is to get started. And you can just put in your query. But most people don't even know how to use AI well. So I always say, take a class. There's a place I go on. I do YouTube. That's how I learned originally. And then I went to AI Pioneers, and then I went to AI Foundation. Awesome. Both of those organizations are awesome. And anyway, so I learned, and I am, what you might say, advanced. Anyway, I have a company that does AI.
Oh, amazing. I think the overarching bigger picture lesson is just be on top of the trends and the tools, and know, maybe not every single thing is going to be for you, but don't be afraid to embrace the new technologies and just start somewhere. I think that's such an important piece of advice.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah, but let me say something to that, Julie.
Oh, okay.
This is much bigger than a trend. And if I
right. I don't want to
this is.
I don't want to say that AI is a trend. I mean, it literally is on my phone right now and helping us with this podcast. I mean, it's helping in every aspect of everything.
It's a movement. It's where we're going. I call it trend, text, donate. That was a trend. When we used to dunk the people in the water, I go back that far. I remember that remember that? I can't even remember the name of it.
We put ducks or flamingos on their lawns. Do you remember that?
Oh, no, I don't remember that one. Was that United Way or something?
There's just so many things that have come and gone.
Yeah, flavor of the year, I call it.
Exactly. No, I completely agree. But I agree with you that it's sort of like a mindset shift that you have to make, and
openness.
Embracing it. So for people listening, I think you might be getting inundated with mentorship requests. So if for you, how do you choose who are you going to mentor? Like, what makes a good mentee? So if I want to be a mentee and I'm seeking a mentor, what can I do? How can I be a good mentee?
Willingness. That's number one. Open-mindedness, willingness to be mentored. For a lot of cultures, let me just say, for Black men, we're like programmed to not ask for help, period. Okay. How can I talk about my community? So anyway, you have to have that willingness to allow another man to give you direction. So that's one of the first things that I would say. And then the other thing I look for in a mentee is, do you learn? Do you take the advice and run with it? You don't have to do everything. Everything I do is a suggestion. But if I ask you to read something or look at something, and 3 months later or a month later when we meet up again, you haven't even looked at the 5-minute YouTube video, that tells me something. That tells me something. Yes, I am limited. Let me just say this real quick, Julie. In July of last year, I had 52 volunteer commitments, 23 organizations, and 29 men. And 28 mentees, 1 sponsee in the programs, the anonymous program. And I had to make a decision because I was starting a new business. And because I just didn't have the capacity. I just did not have the time. I was spending between 600 to 1,100 hours a year volunteering. And so I had to have a discussion with my mentor.
A real conversation.
Yeah. So I cut it back to 8 men. And then plus I got rid of all the organization, got off of every board I was on, everything. And because I have a bigger picture and a bigger thing that I'm going for that will affect more people if I do it. And then the other thing is I did that. And then I did start the group, like I said last week, but that's my one organization is that men's book study.
Now, so you will be at Icon, AFP Icon in Seattle. Any other conferences coming up this year that you want people to know about? A million?
Yeah, Storytellers Conference, NPCC. I just got off the phone with Josh. Anyway, I have like 4 or 5. I have, I think, 15 speaking engagements already this year.
Amazing.
In the fundraising world. I speak at chapters. I teach fundamentals. I teach the Faculty Training Academy, which is a great course to learn how to do adult learning, how to teach to adult learners. And then real excited, I have my new book coming out, which is going to be phenomenal. It's called Surviving Ken, A Black Man's Journey from the Ivy Leagues to the Streets, the Penitentiary, and Back. So that's coming out next month.
When does that come out? Tell me the date.
February. It's going to be mid-February. I'm meeting with the publisher this afternoon.
Okay,
we'll have a drop dead date. Yeah.
I will put the link in the show notes. Is there a place people can connect with you, get on your email list, connect with you on LinkedIn so they can get all these updates?
Yeah. LinkedIn is Ken Miller 84. That's, my tag, Ken Miller 84. And then the website is kenmillerspeaks.com. That's probably the easiest one. Or DenaliFSP.com, which is my fundraising.
Wonderful. I will add all of these to the show notes so people can connect with you. This has been wonderful. And it's just been such a great conversation. And it was so wonderful to meet you finally. And hopefully I'll see you at one of these conferences.
For sure. And thank you, Julia. Thank you for having this and taking the time and doing this. Truly, thank you. I think we'll
have to set you up with a podcast next. I think you have a lot to say. I can mentor you to do a podcast.
Let's talk about it someday. Whenever you want to talk about it, we'll talk about it because I've been thinking about it. Okay.
Thanks so much.
All right. Appreciate it.
Well, hey there. I wanted to say thank you for tuning into my show and for listening all the way to the end. If you really enjoyed today's conversation, make sure to subscribe to the show in your favorite podcast app, and you'll get new episodes downloaded as soon as they come out. I would love if you left me a rating or a review because this tells other people that my podcast is worth listening to. And then me and my guests can reach even more earbuds and create even more impact. So that's pretty much it. I'll be back soon with a brand new episode. But until then, you can find me on Instagram at JuliaCampbell77. Keep changing the world, you nonprofit unicorn.